I've got none other than our buddy Carmine Appice joining the show right now. How are you doing, Carmine?
I'm good. How you doing?
You know, I just have to tell you, I'm doing great. But like everybody who I have on the show, I'm like, I got to do a trial run with you because, like, it's complicated and everything. But you have your own show, right?
Yeah, we're on like a hiatus now. We're just running reruns because we have 85 episodes, you know.
Gosh,
So we've had so many different people on it, and we're trying to figure out what to do with it,
yeah.
because we want to bring it up to the next level, or like a proper TV show, or Netflix or something like that.
Oh,
Because
that'd be so
with the
cool.
name power we had, from Ted Nugent to Joe Bonamassa to Weird Al, even. We've had so many different people on there that we think it should be brought up to a different platform, you know?
Yeah, no doubt.
So,
That's super cool. Tell everybody about the name of the show and how they could see their
yeah, the show's
reruns.
hanging and banging, and it's got me and my brother Vinny as the host, and this guy Ron Anesti who runs. He owns a couple of theaters and venues in the Chicago area, and he's the president of the Italian American Society, and in the Midwest. He's over in Italy now, having meetings. Sent us a picture. He's with the Pope. It's really wild. So
See? That's
we're on
really
every Thursday night at 7 o'clock,
very
and
cool.
they're just doing the reruns. And actually, the reruns are doing good. Last week we had a rerun with Dion, and I forgot who the other act was, but it was really good. We got like just on my website, the Facebook, we got like 1,500 views, like as it was going on, and then it builds up. It goes on YouTube and all that. So in the end, that one can have like 6, 7, 8,000 views. And
That's
it's always
awesome.
like,
That's super successful. Very cool. Well, that made it easy for us to get on tonight where you didn't have to have that trial run and you just jumped right on and I mean, you're lined up perfectly and looks great. So thanks for making it
yeah,
easy on us.
well, I know the whole backstage thing. Well, while I was waiting, I was erasing things on my phone that I don't need. Then my son called me, and I was talking to him when you called.
Good. Well, as I mentioned before you joined the show, Carmine, you were a part of Drummathon. Like you were actually at our very first Drummathon in 2015.
Yeah,
It was pretty crazy because that was when I think about that, I'm like, man, it was like falling down the stairs. The first time you do something, you just don't know what you don't know, and we
yep.
learned everything we needed to know from that first event. And after that, it's just been smooth sailing. Tell everybody a little bit about the first Drummathon experience and how you feel like it changed in 2016.
Oh, it's so long ago. I hardly don't remember it. I mean, I do remember just doing it. It was it's a drum event, and the fact that you were a cancer survivor was, to me, the main thing that you put this on, and you're still putting it on. How's your health? You okay?
11 years cancer free now.
That's great.
Yeah, so it's been really
That's
good.
great.
And that Drummathon when we first started, I don't even know if you realize the first year we did it, we raised $13,000, and now we average about 50,000 the last 4 years.
Wow,
So
that's
we're like right at
fantastic.
50,000. So it increased every year until we hit
For every
50,000.
drumathon, you raise that, and
Yeah, the
every
last yeah. So it went
that's fantastic.
13,000. It started 13,000, the next year 26, the next 35, the next 42, and then we got at 50 and we've been hanging out at
Awesome.
50. Yeah, it's been great. I was just telling folks before you joined that we really want to try to reach 75,000 this year. Like we really want to bring it up a notch. But
That's
it's
great.
the thing that helps it so much, Carbine, is people like you coming out because that really draws people in. People want to see folks like you that they've admired through the years that have been their drummer heroes and things like that. So when you came
Yeah,
out, it made a really big difference. You and Vinny were there and Matt Starr
yeah,
that first year. So it's
yeah.
super cool.
I remember Vinny was there too, and that was a
Yeah.
lot of fun.
Yeah. Also we were talking earlier just about, your history and drumming and, being with Ozzy and Ted Nugent, Rod Stewart, Blue Murder, all the different bands that you've played in. I've never actually had a chance to sit and talk to you about this, but how did you get started in drumming in the first place?
Well, basically, my cousin was a drummer, and Italian family. We go over to each other's house, and different holidays, and every time I went to his house, I'd start banging on his drums. And then I go home and bang on pots and pans, and my parents saw that I liked it. They got me like at the time, I was young, really young. They got me toy drum sets, and then probably when I was about 10 or 11, they got a real drum set at Sam Ash. There was a snare drum, a bass drum, and a cymbal and a pedal. It cost $55, but back in those days, it was a lot of money. 19, I don't know, 59, 58. And I just started playing in my basement, well, it wasn't a basement, it was a cellar in Brooklyn. And I would just play and practice. And my friend up the street played trumpet and guitar. And he came down and his friend played trumpet or guitar or accordion or something. And we put a little band together. And I remember we did our first gig in the Bronx. I made $7.50, and then it went on from that. I actually still have my books in the closet here that shows my gigs that I did in my life. And it shows the very first gig,
Oh.
up
What
in the
what year
Bronx.
what year was that, your first gig?
I think it was 61 or 60 or something like that.
You got paid on your first gig.
Yeah, $7.50. Not like today,
I
you,
got
you
my
do
first
gigs for nothing,
yeah, yeah. I got paid $20 the first time I got paid, and that was in '88.
Yeah.
So yeah.
88, you're still making money as a first gig.
Yeah, yeah. So what kind of band was that first band with that kind of a lineup?
I didn't even know. It was like, there was one guy played guitar, one guy played guitar and trumpet. So we had no bass, you know, and we were playing this songs like At the Hop and, like 50s kind of songs, late 50s songs,
Yeah, yeah.
you know,
That's very
and
cool.
Duke of Earl and silly
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
I
So
would like
what
to, I would like to see a set list
no kidding.
from
Yeah.
from
That'd be
that
or
gig.
have like a recording from that gig would be really cool, you know?
Well, I do have a recording that I put on one of my albums, so Carmine Classics. You can get it on my carminemerch.com site, and it's just started. And it's me singing the Rascal song, "I Ain't Gonna Eat Out My Heart Anymore." Right? And I don't know how we recorded it. I mean, it's a terrible recording, but it's, my band, the Beats, Beets, 3 E's. And I do have a demo of that somewhere, of that, not that song, but we recorded "You Really Got Me" as a demo, of a little vinyl.
I guess that would be the Kinks version.
It's unbelievable. It's like
Yeah.
when I go back to, when I'm in New York, we go back to Florida where we live. I think I found that vinyl here. I'm gonna take it back and play it and see if that's it. If it is, I'm gonna offer it on my merch site as a
Yeah.
collectible.
No kidding. That'd be an
'Cause what am I
amazing
gonna do with
collectible.
it?
That's awesome. So it's
Yeah,
Carmine did you say carminemerch.com?
yeah, carminemerch.com.
I'll make sure that they pop that into, the chat there so our
Yeah,
social media
cool.
team can do that. So from there, you started out with the small band and then started playing.
I started playing around, and then I did with another band we had. There was this guy named Mikey V and the Imperials. He was a sax player. We had a full band then, so 3 of the guys that ended up being in my group, the Beats, were in that band. And we did a Battle of the Bands at the JCH, which is Jewish Center in Brooklyn. And we played, and then this other band played, and this guy did a drum solo, and he was like, wow, it blew my mind. It was really good. So I went up to him and said, man, you played great. How did you learn to play? Did you learn yourself? Did you take lessons? So yeah, I took lessons. I said, wow, who'd you take lessons from? So he gave me the guy's number and his name. And this guy named Dick Bennett in Brooklyn. And I said, okay. So I went home and told my parents I'd really like to take lessons, It was $5 a lesson for an hour. But in those days, my father didn't make a lot of money. And we lived in a one-bedroom apartment at the time. I don't know if Vinny was born yet, probably not. And we had at least, 5 people living in that one bedroom, mother, father, my older brother, me, and my sister. Maybe
Um,
Vinny was born, I'm not sure.
yeah.
And $5 was a lot of money. So, but my parents talked it over, and I said, okay. So I would take a train and a bus to get to Dick Bennett's house. And it was the first time I went there. He was like, this guy was a great player. And, he started teaching me how to read, and I caught on really fast. So at the end of 6 months, the guy Tommy was here and I was there as a drummer. And then I went like this. And I got
Wow.
so good really
Wow.
quick. And then we got this other band called The Beats. And with that, we would do weddings and bar mitzvahs and, sweet 16 parties and dances, rock dance and church dances. And, I used to keep my book. And gradually I saw my money go up. From $750, I'd make $80, $90, $100, $250 a month, and just kept doing that till I was 19. I played clubs, and and they started making weekly money, $130, $150 a week. And then at one point I was in high school. After high school, actually. When I went to high school, I majored in music, and I was in all the bands and orchestras and the marching bands, and I was head of the percussion section because I could read. And I was playing on the weekend, and then I got out of school and I was playing on weekends. I was making good money, $150, $200 a weekend. I was playing weddings and stuff, so I paid good. And I went up to my father because I worked all week as a stock boy, which had no future. It was terrible. I worked all week, get up in the morning, take the train, go to work, come back. I was going like 10 hours a day. I come back with a $45 after taxes, $45. I went to my father. I said, look, Pop, what should I do? Should I work all week and make $45? Or work on the weekend and make $200? He said,
Seems
wow,
pretty.
$200
Yep.
sounds better. I said, good. So I quit my job.
That's awesome. Wow.
I was in 1964.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot to be making back then. I feel like. I mean,
It was good. I
I,
mean, when I got out of school, I was 17 years old. And with that money, I saved enough money to buy a brand new 64 Chevy Super Sport, 327 4-speed. And, I put down $1,200. My parents co-signed for me, but I made all the payments. So I started building my credit when I was young.
well, they must have instilled in you a really good work ethic, and also taught you a lot about finances. You're so young to be so smart with your money, and like you said, you paid off all the car you're on your own.
Yeah, well,
That's
my
pretty hard
father
at
was
that age.
always, my parents were always into, good work ethics. My father had that. My mother was a stay-home housewife, and my father, he was a cop. And he ended up being an oil burner mechanic where he could put in people's oil burners, and that's what he retired on. But he was always working, whether it was that, and then we had bought a little house in New Jersey at Lakewood, where we go there in the summertime. So we lived in Brooklyn. It was real city stuff. We had gangs when I was a kid and all that stuff. But he was always doing that stuff. He bought a shell of a house, he fixed it up, he put all the plumbing in, put all the electrical in. He did everything, and we'd help him. So he showed us really good, work ethics, and it carried on to the whole family, to our whole life, and my whole family did well.
That's
Nobody
really
was like a
cool.
bum, you
Yeah.
know.
I mean, there's a lot of people that I know of that didn't get that growing up. So that was really fortunate for you, and that you were able to take that into your music, and
Yeah, and when you
and
lived
make
in
a living like
Brooklyn,
that.
you learned to survive, you know. It's like survival of the fittest.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody lived on top of each other, and that's the way it was. All kinds of, it's like a melting pot. You had Italians, you had the Jews, you had Spanish, you had black, and Polish. There was a name for everybody, Polacks, Guineas, Mexicans were the Spics, and the blacks were, the N word, And it was always like my mother was the best at all that. She'd curse at everybody and called them a Polak bastard, and stuff like that.
Times have changed for sure. I'll say that.
Yeah,
It's
oh yeah,
crazy.
yeah. But
So,
now a whole area and there is Hasidic Jews, you know. And one time, me and Vinny with my girlfriend, Leslie Gull, who was the radio chick in New York, who was famous in New York, we went back to Brooklyn and we were looking at the house. We had long hair and, dyed hair, and we looked like rock and rollers. And this guy came out of the house that we grew up in. I said, "Could I help you?" And he was a rabbi. He said, "Well, we used to live here." He says, "Oh, are you those two famous drummers that used to live here?" We said, "Yeah." He goes, "Come on in." So he brought us in and showed us the whole house and what they did to it. And they really did everything to it. The downstairs, which used to be a cellar that had stone floors and stone wall, because it was carved out of the stone in Brooklyn.
right.
They redid the whole thing as a finished basement, and they added on to the back and the kitchen. I said, "Wow, what a great job!" And my grandfather bought that place for $8,000 in like
Wow,
1920.
that's crazy.
Now
That's
it's
cool to
worth
get a
like
chance to go
$2
back there.
million.
Oh my god,
It's
crazy man.
crazy,
That's nuts, man. Well,
right?
so with your drumming career, when you continued on, you were successful locally, essentially, because you were able to do that as your full time job. That's
Yep.
how you made your money. So, at what point, like, when did things start to change? Where you're like, oh my god, something is taking off. Who were you playing with, and what was happening?
Well, I was very easy to remember. I was playing with the group that we named it Thursday's Children. It was like 1966 and 65, and that's when the Beatles are around and the Rascals and the Rolling Stones and everything was like, names like Thursday's Children. What the hell did that mean? I don't know, you know.
Yeah.
And it was like a funk R&B band. It was four people, the three guys from the Beats and this lead singer named Dean Parrish. And Dean had a little bit of a hit on the radio. So we used to play his hit and then we play R&B. And one day we were playing this club called the Choo Choo Club where the Rascals played and a bunch of other people that got famous played. And got these two guys came in. They said, "Hey, look, we have a band and we're looking for a drummer like you who's technical. That I know you. I've heard you technical. You could read music, had a good right foot, and who could sing. And we have this band called the Pigeons, and we have a manager in Long Island. Now will pay us a salary because we're trying to make it and make hit records." So I'm thinking to myself, that sounds interesting. Well, how much is this guy going to pay us? Like $100 a week. I was making $150 a week, with this other band. So I thought to myself, oh, I'm pretty happy doing this. But then I thought it might be cool to check these guys out. So I went out to Long Island and I checked them out. And Mark Stein, the keyboard player, was amazing. Great B3 player and great singer. Tim Bogert was the bass player, amazing bass player and great singer. And Vinnie Martell was a really good guitar player and a really good singer. And they all sang like with the heavy vibrato that I used to do when I sang doo-wop in the streets of Brooklyn, And we had singing groups with no instruments, just singing groups. So I played with them and I said, wow, this is great. And I sang with them, this is great. So I decided, I called out my life-changing decision. I decided to go with them. And then when I met the manager, I realized this was a guy, they have a place called the Action House. And the group called the Vagrants was playing there a lot. And they used to pack it out, it was 2,000 people. Leslie West was in the Vagrants. And they were doing these production numbers, which was like what we wanted to do, which was like You Keep Me Hanging On, Eleanor Rigby, and all the stuff we did in our first album. But when I played at that venue, 2 months before that, it was called the Shell House. I was playing there 4 weekends. And the last 2 weekends I played there, it looked like the mafia took over that place. It was a, I went to get, I was the band leader. I went to get paid. I knocked on the door and, it was like, who is it? Like, heavy, thick voice. I go, it's the band. I want to get paid. So come on in. I go in. I see this guy. His name was Chubby. He looked like he could have played Luca Brasi in The Godfather. And then I meet Phil, who was the owner. He had a scar on his face. He looked like Scarface. He looked like Al Capone, short, stocky, really muscular looking, and badass talker. I knew they were mafia guys. So, we played there that weekend and next weekend. I got paid. Everything was cool. So when I went there and I got introduced to the manager of what was going to be Vanilla Fudge with the Pigeons, it was Phil. It was that guy. And he's the guy who's going to pay us $100 a week. And I told him, I played here a few months ago with this group, Thursday's Children. And when I came to get paid, you guys scared the hell out of me. And so they were the guys that backed us. And they were connected,
Yeah.
So we started doing arrangements and we got paid whether we worked or not every week. And that band, the Pigeons, turned into Vanilla Fudge. And that was it. We did that first demo, If You Keep Me Hanging On, one take mono. We put the vocals on it. I thought we did everything in one take mono, but Mark Stein told me we did the vocals later. So, but the track was done in one take,
Okay.
right? And then at that time you had Murray the K and Scott Muni, who were big rock DJs in New York. They're just starting a new thing on WOR. They were playing albums and they took our demo and they put it on their show, which was like Rate the Record. It was a contest. So they would put us on with us and the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, or us, the Beatles and the Beach Boys. And we would always win. People would call up and say, you keep me hanging on. You keep me hanging on. So Atlantic Records heard that. And through that, they signed us. And they didn't like the name the Pigeons. Changed the name to Vanilla Fudge. And that started off in July of 1967. We released You Keep Me Hanging On as a single, and it hit the charts. It didn't go very high. It went to like number 80. And but we were doing the whole album, which we had all the other songs. And when that came out, I believe in August, first time it hit the charts at 200. The next week it zoomed up to 33.
Wow.
And then it kept going, kept going, and kept going. Before
Yeah.
you know it, we had a top 10 album without having a top 10 single, which was
Crazy.
first back in the day. And from that, and that was like 67. And from that, and is it January or February of 68, we were on the Ed Sullivan Show. And that was a scary thing because you're going down the elevator, rehearsed all week there. And then I said to the elevator operator, how many people watch this show? She says, about 50 million.
Dang. Yeah.
All of a sudden, my stomach turned.
I bet
said,
so.
"Wow," I got butterflies in my stomach.
Yeah.
Until I reached the drums and he introduced it, we started playing and forget about it.
Right.
But that was like a milestone in our career. And a lot of people's careers. A lot of drummers tell me that they saw us on Ed Sullivan and they went, wow. They were very impressed by the band and what I was doing. I was like a freaking animal on that show.
I wonder if you can find copies of that, probably out on YouTube somewhere.
On
I
YouTube,
wonder.
oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
all over YouTube.
I have to
Yeah.
find that. That's
It's
really
got
cool.
a couple of 2-3 million views on it.
Yeah. Yeah. Nothing like the 50 million then, but
No, but
dang.
still.
I mean,
And then we
gosh.
were on a year later.
Yeah.
We did a year later too.
That's so cool. Speaking of Vanilla Fudge, there's somebody who's watching the broadcast right now. Sean Messick is asking a question. First, he wanted to let you know that he digs your hair. He hadn't seen the Silver Fox look, so he likes your hair. And he said, "Tell me how you came about putting out new music with Vanilla Fudge.
Well, how we put out new music?
How you came to putting it out? Like, how did that all come together?
I just told you.
And just the newest music recently.
Oh, the recent
Everything.
stuff.
Yeah.
Well, the most recent thing we did was, it was gonna be called, an album called, Supreme Fudge. We were gonna do some Supreme songs because You Keep Me Hanging On was a Supreme song that we turned into something else and still going. It was just in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the latest thing a couple of years ago, that really quadrupled our royalties, a Quentin Tarantino movie. But so we were gonna do a whole album, like 5 or 6 songs of Supreme songs, and then a couple other R&B songs and a couple of originals. So we recorded the song "Stop in the Name of Love." We started recording it, and then COVID hit, and we couldn't really do much, but before COVID hit, we recorded in 2019, December, the actual track, and Tim Bogert was gonna play on it, and Tim Bogert was sick, he had cancer. He died of cancer, last year. But before, it was like 2020, when I came out for the NAMM show, I went in the studio with Tim, and we had the whole track except the bass. So we put Tim on the track. Then we found out, the drum track needed to be redone because there was too much leakage on the guitar and organ. So, okay. So we recorded Tim, and we figured, when I go back to New York area, I'll do the drums over. Then COVID hit, and that was the end of that. So I just laid there for a while. And then we moved to Florida, and I put together a studio where I could record in now. So one of the first things I did after I, excuse me, after I got my drum sound together, I recorded on that track. So finally, we finished it and we mixed it. We released it last year, and that was the only record from a band from 1967 that released a new product with the original band.
I bet
You
that's
know,
right. I bet that's
and
right.
then
So
Tim
cool.
had passed away by then, you know, and I was sad when he passed away because he was like my partner in crime for many years.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, how old were you when you first met him? Was it, like, 19 or so?
Well, I was 19. He was a year older. He was like 20,
Yeah.
almost 21.
Wow. That's time,
Yeah, and
almost
he
a
died.
full
He was
lifetime.
76 when he died.
Um, I know that we've got about a few more minutes left, and I have a few questions here from people watching, so I wanna be sure and get to those.
Okay.
Mandy wanted to ask you a question. She was wondering, what is your favorite song that you have written or co-written?
That I written or what?
Or co-written.
Oh, well, I mean, my biggest song was "Do You Think I'm Sexy?" You know, and that was fun, and there was not a lot of songs that I co-written. Yeah, my Guitar Zeus record, I think some great songs on there, and Young Turks was another one I co-wrote with Rod, my friend Dwayne Hitchings. So probably those two and a bunch of stuff on Guitar Zeus.
Then, Kia'i'i from Hawaii is asking, she says, "Aloha, Carmine. You look amazing and thank you for being here. I'm a huge fan and a huge Rod Stewart fan. When you co-wrote Do You Think I'm Sexy, and those lyrics are badass, by the way, was there any backlash from other rock musicians about the disco beat being incorporated into that song?"
Not really. I mean, how can you argue with number one in 10 or 12 countries,
Right.
and sold 2 million copies in America and brought the album to 10 million copies. So how do you argue with that? Matter of fact, when I was real close with Kiss in those days, Paul Stanley had played on his album, and they came to our shows, and after "Do You Think I'm Sexy," they wrote that song, that big hit song that they had was like a disco song. I was
Was
made to
made for
love
loving
you,
you,
babe.
baby. Yep.
And that was,
Yeah.
that was, you know, that was influenced by Do You Think I'm Sexy? So,
It's awesome. She
you know,
actually mentioned, Kiss when she said that comment. She said, like Kiss the Rolling Stones. Did you hear about going disco?
yeah, well, there
Things
you go.
like
Well,
that.
the Rolling Stones Missing You was the inspiration for our song because Rod said, I want a song like Missing You. He said to the band, so everybody went back to their house and came back with their songs. I was the lucky one. I got it, you know. But who knew? We didn't know it was going to be that big, you know. It was
Yeah,
huge,
how could you know?
humongous,
Yeah, I mean, this is
humongous.
probably the biggest hit that Rod ever put out, isn't it?
Yeah, it was the biggest song he ever did.
Yeah, yeah.
And and on YouTube, he's got something like 120 million views on that song with me on it, you know. And it's really weird because we went to see Rod in Florida a few months ago, and I seen him a couple of times, after I left the band. But for some reason, this time he played a lot of the songs that I had a lot to do with. Like Hot Legs, the drums are very there. You're in My Heart, I played on, I arranged the background harmonies. Young Turks co-wrote, arranged the background harmonies. People Get Ready, I was involved in all these songs. And I was watching it from my perspective, saying, it's great that Rod's singing. He's still singing these songs. He's still great. The show's great. But I was involved in a lot of these things, and I'm watching people enjoying them. But it felt weird me not being on the stage. You
I
know?
bet so. I bet that was weird.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I have a thing called the Rod Experience, as I'm putting it together another show. I have a guy that looks like Rod and sounds like Rod, and I had it going a while ago, and I had members of the Rod Stewart group in there. But it got too hard to rehearse and too hard to do stuff. So I'm going to give it another go with members of the band being in Florida, and being pretty much unknown, and me being the main guy with the singer. I'm doing the 1979 Kick-Ass Rod show that we used to do.
Oh,
See
that'll
what
be a
happens.
killer.
It's a
No,
lot
and
of
then
fun. At least I get to play the songs then.
yeah, exactly. And those kind of tribute kind of bands are going over really well, and then
It's
especially if
amazing.
you're in it, then all the better. My God, you have to come to
Yeah.
Texas. We'll get you
I mean,
some
I have
shows
a
here.
website right now called the Rod Experience. If you look at it, you'll see it. It's good. The band was good. I had Phil Chen, who just passed away. He played with Rod. He was playing bass, and all the different guys that play with Rod. Jimmy Crespo played with Rod. He was in the video on that website. And Danny Johnson played with Rod. He's on the video. Myself. So we had 4 people out of 6 that played with Rod on that video on the website. And it was
It's
good. We
perfect.
went to
Yeah.
China. We played a bunch of other shows. And then it was very hard to get everybody together because they were all over the country.
Yeah.
You want to rehearse, it costs you like $5,000 to have a rehearsal. You had to fly everybody in, get hotels. So that kind of killed the whole thing.
Yeah, I could see how that would happen. Yeah. Well, maybe something will come from that. That'd be great. Looks like Brandy has a question for you. She says, "My 11-year-old daughter is currently taking drum lessons through School of Rock. She is going on a year. What advice could you give her? And how was your experience growing up learning? Were you self-taught or classically trained?" And you kind of went over that a little bit, but you can go
Yeah, I
ahead and
did.
answer
Well,
it. Yeah.
again, I took lessons. I learned myself, then I took lessons. The lessons really made a big improvement. And the best thing she could do if she wants to learn rock, she should go through my book, Realistic Rock, and practice. Practice as much as you can with a teacher. Learn how to read and do all the rudiments on a pad. Learn how to get them fast and apply stuff to the drums. I'd always play like an hour on the pad, hour at least on the drums. You know,
Wow. And how often do you practice now? Do you still
I don't
practice?
practice much
Yeah.
now, you know,
You,
because, you know, some of the stuff that drumming wise today is all about speed. I'm 75 years old. My speed isn't improving. Let's put it that way. So I just, I'm more into, songwriting, production, drum sounds. I'm going to score this It's a movie called About Faith. I'm gonna do some music scoring. We just had a meeting today. It looks like we're gonna do that. So, that to me is more challenging and sitting down practicing different versions of paradiddles, you know. So I did a lot, so much stuff when I was, I had my studio in 71, 72, and was writing realistic rock. I was practicing all the time as I was teaching. I taught like 30 students a week, when I was home. And then I go on the road and play, do tours, and, you know, do clinics. I did, 40 clinics a year. So, I did kind of up to here with practicing.
Yeah. I think it's time to relax now. Lori Peters, she was actually one of our celebrity guests at three of our drumathons. She was a drummer for Skillet. She just wanted to say thank you for being here, Carmine. Your rock drumming books were some of my first when I was taking lessons at 14 years old.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, and
I'm
she's an
glad it helped.
amazing she's an
Hopefully
amazing
it
drummer
helped.
too. Yeah, I'll say that it did. She's an amazing drummer. And
Good.
I did want to ask you one thing. This is always a hard question because I played regionally, kind of toured regionally for like 8 years, just in Texas, and people would ask me this question, but I'm still going to ask you. Can you tell us, like, just go and pick something that happened while you were on the road that was just crazy that you want to tell everybody about?
Well, if you read my book, Stick It,
Yep.
My Life of Sex, Drums, Rock and Roll, there's a lot of crazy stories in there, but one crazy story comes to mind, which whenever somebody asks me this question, when we were playing with Cactus, we were doing an outdoor venue somewhere, and it was a festival, and there was like 3,000 or 4,000 people there. And we had a flatbed truck was the stage, and behind it, like as a T, it was the bed of a dump truck, and that's where the drum riser was on. They put a rug, and they had the drum riser on the bed of a dump truck. So when I did my solo, the guys from Cactus got off the stage. They're a very rowdy bunch, and somehow they went in and pushed the button,
Oh,
and it started dumping
uh-huh.
my solo, and everything started sliding off, including me, and they got it to a point where, they stopped. I got so pissed off, you know, and I ran to I was ready to kill somebody, you know. Now when I think of it, it's pretty funny, you know,
Easy
that they
it's
even
easy to
thought
look back
about
on that,
that.
yeah. Oh my god, that's funny. Yeah, I wouldn't have thought it like, I'd have been too scared to go through with that. I might have thought of it, but I would've been too scared to go through with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just funny as hell when I think about it now.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
visualize me dumping and the drums are all sliding forward. They didn't dump it enough where they fell off the drum truck, but they all started, moving around where they weren't really playable anymore, you know?
Oh my
Uh,
god.
Pretty hilarious.
Awesome. We got one last question. This is from Mandy, and she asks, "What was the largest crowd you've ever played for, and where was it?"
I think the largest was the Isle of Wight Festival with Cactus, of 600,000 people.
Dear
And
lord. Wow.
we have a video. It was filmed, a 5 camera video shoot. So we have that coming out sometime soon. It's going to be packaged with the video, some audio of the Action House, which was my manager's club, live at the Action House, live in Isle of Wight, and a book, not a pamphlet, like a book, an actual book that my friend Randy Pratt and this guy Elliot, um, they went around and did interviews with so many people about Cactus, including the band and uh, famous people that were influenced by Cactus and all that. And they wrote this book. So it's going to go with the Isle of Wight video and the Action House Live tapes. They put a whole, like, it's like, can be like a whole box set for Cactus. So that's the biggest crowd, 600,000 people. And when you say, they're all sitting on the floor, on the ground, when you say, get up and boogie, and they get up, and it's like a gigantic wave. It starts in front and goes back.
Wow.
It's an incredible, incredible sight to
Yeah,
see.
yeah, that's
And
gotta
we
be
did
it.
that also at the second biggest crowd was the Atlanta Pop Festival. It's 250,000 people, you know, it's amazing.
What a amazing career you've had, a blessed career, and And thank you so much for joining us tonight and for being a part of Drummathon, everything that you've done with that. It's made a big difference, Carmine. I mean, because you really kicked off that first year, and I'm not
Oh, I'm
sure
glad.
that it would have been
Once
this
we
great.
do it again, maybe we can come down to the next one,
Yeah, yeah, that'd be awesome.
because
But
last time you had it, I forgot what, there's something going on, I couldn't make it.
yeah,
And
yeah.
when do you have them? What's the month?
It's October 9th this year. October
October
9th.
9th. Yeah, well, I think I was playing last October or
Yep,
something.
yep.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
playing.
I think we're playing with the Fudge and the tour. But hopefully, I don't know what the schedules. I know we got some October shows already, but I don't know what the dates they are. But if I can make it, I'll try and make it because it was a lot of fun. And I'm always good to do a charity show to help, raise money for different causes.
Man, you've
Because,
been
I
so
thank
amazing,
God I'm still here playing.
right?
Of all my guys, from those days, Ginger Baker's gone, Mitch Mitchell's gone, Keith Moon's gone, John Bonham's gone, you know, all those guys from that era, Tim Bogart's gone,
Right.
I knock on wood, I'm still here, and
Or
I'm still playing, I'm still doing projects, and I think part of that is when you get older and you have purpose in your life, I'm just looking at my wife here, Leslie, because she does a podcast. It's called A Life Story, and part of it is, she talks about it, and the people all on the podcast, they all have perfect purpose to keep them going. So many people are 102 years old, 95, 96, 98 years old, and purpose is a big part of keeping your lifespan going.
I think that's
I
true
mean,
too. And
other than doing, the things get killed. A lot of the people, they talked about was drugs.
yep,
You know,
yep,
so they never lasted till the 70s.
yeah.
A lot of people who are turning 70s and playing, they still play and they have purpose.
Right. I mean, that's what whenever I started Breast Cancer Can Stick It, I realized that's my purpose in life and my passion in life, and that's what drives me every day. And I
Yeah,
think everybody finds, like you said, their purpose and locks into that, it does keep you living longer, you know?
I mean, my purpose keep playing. I
Yeah.
play with like this next month I go out with Cactus. Back in July we go out with Vanilla Fudge, and I go out with my brother in August, and then I'm finishing the King Cobra record, and when it boils down to, we've been working on it for a year in COVID because everybody's sharing files. By the time I'm done, I would have made probably 10 cents an hour, you know, doing the record. But the two guitar players in the band, the original guys, didn't want to do it because they said nobody hears it. And why do you want to even do it? So, for me, it's still a legendary band that I created, and I wanted to keep the legend going and keep creating music. And it gave me another purpose.
Yep.
And and that's the way it is. I have an instrumental project I do. So, you know, if you don't have anything to wake up for to do, that's when I think you start going downhill.
And you're gonna have to let us know what happens with your show that you guys have going so we can keep track of
Yeah,
that. If you guys do land something
yeah.
like a
Well,
Netflix
it's
thing or
still on
something, that's so
every
cool.
Thursday at 7 p.m. It's on Hanging and Banging. You can see it on Carmine Appice official Facebook or on YouTube, Hanging and Banging. All the episodes are on YouTube as
Yeah,
well.
that's cool.
So
Well, we'll point everybody to all your links and stuff too in this broadcast. We'll make sure and
cool.
do that. And we're going to re-release this broadcast on YouTube. That'll be out in a couple of weeks. So this interview will be out there as well. But I'll keep in touch with you. I'll get in touch with you about Drummathon 2022, and we can chat about that, see if something works with your
Cool,
schedule. It'd be
man.
great to have you
Sounds
out.
good.
All
You
right.
still got the red hair,
Yes, I do.
huh?
Yep.
As
I
you can
mean,
see, I
it's
changed
natural.
mine. I
Yes,
got
I
tired
know.
of dyeing it. I got tired of having black pillowcases and black towels.
I'm in a fight with my hair right now because I've been trying to. That gray comes on pretty strong in the front, Carmine. I'm in a fight with it, but we're gonna see
Yeah,
how long I can go.
yeah. I mean, this is a lot easier to keep.
Yeah, I'll bet
You know,
so. It looks great. You look
you
great,
know,
man.
it's like I used to have black towels and black pillowcases, and
Right.
and like you can't do anything white, and the color
Right.
comes off on it.
Yep.
But this, the silver don't come off, and it's all happening. So
Natural looks good.
yeah.
Cool. Well, I'll get in touch with you really soon. We'll talk more about Drummathon, and thanks again for coming on the show
Okay,
tonight,
man.
Carmine. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it. You have a good
Good
evening,
time.
okay?
All
Take
right,
care.
cheers.
All right,
Bye-bye.
bye.
Bye.
All right, everybody, that was Carmine Appice, man. So grateful to have him on the show this evening. And as I mentioned, he was a part of Drummathon 2015 and 2016. And we were so blessed to have him help kick off Drummathon really, really great with me and his brother.